Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Optibotimus coming at you with another video review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a very special look at the 2016 New York Comic Con exclusive Eastman and Laird Villain 4-pack from NECA Toys. Now, San Diego Comic Con in 2016 saw the return of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle license to NECA Toys. What they did for the New York Comic Con essentially gave us comic book versions of the villains. For the package here, you can basically see what I meant. Shredder as well as the Foot Soldiers are done up to look how they looked in those original Eastman and Laird Mirage comics. The top section here just has Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle with some, black and white images there in the back. On the back of the package, you got a really cool image of them. Actually, you got multiple sets kind of put in here. And then the front of the package actually has a little Velcro strap, and then you can open it up and you can see, again, a recreation kind of, if I hold it here, of some of those images from that original comic. And then when you flip it up here, you see the actual figures with a really cool recreation of a comic side street kind of in the background. But then you see Shredder, 2 Foot Soldiers, and one of the Elite Foot Soldiers. And we're also treated to one little Utrom. We Turtle fans have been waiting for a long time for NECA to finally get their hands on the Ninja Turtle license again, and old school comic book fans such as myself have really been looking forward to this set for a while. So without further ado, let's get them out here and see how cool they actually are. Alright guys, so here we have the villains opened up and out of their packaging, and this really, for a Ninja Turtle fan, has been a dream come true. For years, we have wanted NECA to continue on with their Ninja Turtle line and give us the bad guys. They gave us the good guys, and we got teases of Shredder, Foot Soldiers, April O'Neil, all that kind of stuff, and for whatever reason, we never ended up getting them. This is like finally making good on that promise, and NECA has done an amazing job with these. Now, while each set of accessories are kind of packed next to different figures, you really can mix and match them and use them for any of the characters. Starting out first, you get this little tiny kind of throwing star, which looks really very cool. Again, real great paint detail that's actually on there. You can see a little black edging work on there with some very nice silver paint. You also do get 2 swords here. I love the little black lines that are kind of thrown throughout here, giving it a very, comic sort of look, as they would have like with different shading and things like that. You can see some nice silver paint throughout the entire thing, and then the handles here have some nice gray paint with some black wrappings on there, and it's textured, so it's a really cool kind of handle design on them. You also get a smaller dagger with, again, those really nice black kind of shading lines thrown throughout there. You got that same kind of detail with the handle itself. Another dagger with a bit of a bent blade, and then even the handguard right here is kind of warped a little bit, and then you also have a little bit of a spike ball kind of thing here at the bottom of the actual handle. Again, real great paint detail, same kind of design here for the handle as well. You get this little dagger looking thing, which I have no idea what it actually is. Kind of reminds me of like a Klingon weapon, honestly, but you got those same kind of paint scratches or these little ball sort of things here on the end. Now, I will say that the original Ninja Turtle figures came with a similar looking weapon. I just don't know what it's actually called, but it is very familiar to me. You also get this really cool design weapon here with, again, a little bit more of a straighter edge, and then a hook section that comes off. You got the nice detail here for the handle. Then you have an actual real metal chain that connects to another bit of a handle with, that spike ball thing on the bottom of the actual handle itself. Again, really cool looking weapon. You spin this around and you smack people with it or something. I really dig this. And then you get a longer staff sort of weapon, kind of like Donatello's bow staff, but this one has this blade on the edge that does curve, and then you've got this little hook section that comes out. You also have a nice little hand guard right on there. Great detail throughout the wraps for it and such. Overall, really cool design, very ninja-like on all these weapons. Each figure does include a pair of interchangeable hands. The 2 Foot Soldiers come with the exact same kind of hands in terms of the overall detail. You got the little padding here on the back of the actual knuckle section. You have the little articulation joint, which I'll touch on, but you can see it's a little bit more open, whereas all the ones that are currently on these figures are just in a standard fist. So these are the same, but with the Elite foot soldier, it is a little bit different. You can see a little bit more detail with that actual pad here on the back. It's also a little bit bigger, as you can see, but it's also molded differently, not just painted differently. And I also like how it actually goes around to the actual palm as well. So giving us a completely different hand here goes a long way, again, towards changing the look of the Elite guard. Obviously, Shredder's are going to be different. On the back of his, you have the actual blades. Now, these are a little bit softer, and in some instances, when you get them out of the package, they may be a little bit warped. The best way to fix that, actually, is to put these in boiling hot water for a few seconds, take them out, and then kind of forcing it in the position that you want, and then putting it in the freezer, allowing it to freeze, and you can see you can get a much more straight kind of look for the actual blades on here. But overall, really great looking detail. I do kind of wish that, much like with the other hands, those kind of straps actually wrapped around to the inside of the hand. Not sure exactly why they didn't do that with these, but all in all, they still look absolutely terrific. For one final accessory, you get this little guy, who newer fans may recognize as like a Krang, but this is actually what's called an Utrom. And in the original Mirage series, these guys actually were peaceful. Despite the fact that they look really creepy and evil, they actually were good guys, but you can see great, I mean, I love, first of all, the sculpted detail throughout here. It gives it a definite, very brain kind of look. You got all these tentacles. You can see these ones here in the front are actually articulated, but look at the detail. You got some nice yellow pupils there. You look at the teeth, great sculpted teeth with all the sharp little edges. Great paint detail. You can actually see some different color, like purples kind of thrown in there, giving it a slightly different look. Just overall, I absolutely love the way that this turned out. I would buy multiples of just this little dude. I think this really turned out great looking. Sculpt-wise, paint-wise, everything on here just looks really very cool. Now, like I said in the beginning, NECA has done a really good job of repainting, retooling, and rearranging some parts of their original San Diego Comic-Con villain set to give us these in really a completely different look. Now, starting off first with just the regular foot soldiers. And here is that original San Diego Comic-Con version. As you can see, these were done in the pixelated kind of video game colors. And this foot soldier right here, I am using the clear NECA display stands, which are great. This one here is basically just a repaint. There's not much entirely different, but sculpt-wise, it is basically the exact same. The only thing that changes are the forearms, as well as the hands, I should say. Everything else that I can see is exactly the same, except for the paint. I mean, even the strappings for the boot, I mean, it is the exact same from the previous version. You just got some different paint on here. Face sculpt is the same and everything, but like I said, the forearms and the hands are the only thing really all that's different. But these are also reused for the Elite foot soldier, which we'll take a look now. The other foot soldier, again, getting that off the stand, this one is a little bit different. It still utilizes the same body as this guy, but what you see is he does come with a different head, sending him off to the side. This has a newly sculpted head. You can see you got kind of like a little scowl sort of paint with the eyebrows right here, and then he also does have a sculpted in bandana. So again, it gives it a slightly different look than obviously, you know, what we have previously. And again, these guys really do look great. And then bringing in the Elite foot soldier, again, body-wise, you can see it is the exact same that we had with the other foot soldier, but this is where you're seeing those same forearms and hands that the San Diego Comic-Con one had, just with a different paint scheme, obviously. So again, very creative part swapping here, creating a completely different look. All we have really new on here is a new head sculpt, but you got that little hat that they did wear. And now, one thing that I will say is that in the original comics, none of these characters, at least the first several issues, none of these characters were in color. In the pages of the comics, it was all just black and white. Even the turtles themselves didn't have any differentiation other than their weapons. It wasn't until later on with some of the actual cover art that they were all given red bandanas. But after the very first issue in which Shredder was killed, the return of the Shredder actually was a clone of the original. That was revealed, I don't remember which issue, it was like around 50 or something like that. But the Shredder returned at the end of the Leonardo miniseries, which also continued into issue number 10. In issue number 10, the cover art was actually the very first time that we saw a colored version of the Shredder. In that miniseries and issue 10, that's where we were introduced to the elite foot soldier and how he kind of looked a little bit different here. But the other thing, like I was talking about, is the color version of the Shredder. And here that is. Now, one thing that is kind of carried over between Shredders, I guess you could say, let me futz with his feet, is this cape. Now, you just obviously have that different color. So again, creative part swapping, to help create this guy, which really very, very cool and very resourceful of NECA. Who's the star of the guy? And again, bringing in that original Shredder, basically you have the exact same Shredder, you just have a different paint scheme on him. Obviously, the cape is not on this guy, but you flip this up and you can see that the whole back section, everything there is the same. So all they really did was took the cape off of him. But in doing so, it creates a very comic book accurate representation. Now, granted, like I said, in the original comics, he was black and white. We got this colored version of him on issue 10, but by that point, that Shredder was actually the clone of him. So one could potentially make the assumption that this represents the clone of Shredder. I mean, I don't know if that's what NECA intended. I mean, it doesn't matter either way. It's still a Shredder, but that's just me being a super fan thinking too much into it, I guess. Paint detail, as if they're drawn, and some great detail on Shredder's actual bucket right here. I mean, really very, very impressive. Also, what I'll talk about is the joints on them. Several of them are actually really stiff, especially like some of these little rotation ones. So again, the best bet to do is put them in the freezer, let them sit there for several minutes, and then when it comes out, the plastic will be a lot more firm, and you can actually use a little bit more force to get those joints to pop. Now, speaking of the articulation, because they all are the exact same, you do have a nice ball joint here at the actual head. All of them also do have a little neck joint underneath here, so you can kind of pivot that forward a little bit. You can see it just shifts forward a little bit. It also does rotate, so sometimes, like in some of the ones that I got, they were a little off to the side. So you do have to kind of get your finger underneath there and kind of rotate it around. It's a little bit troublesome, but you can get it. The shoulders here rotate really nicely. They're on a pin hinge joints, so they rotate nicely. These little pieces do flex a little. They're a little bit softer, so you can lift them and do something like that. You're not going to get a full range of motion with them, but still pretty decent. And then the hinge allows you to lift them out just like so. Bring it down. Now, one thing I'll say is, again, very stiff, so your best bet is to really try to articulate them by holding up here. Don't grab down here and try lifting it, because you're going to put a lot of stress on that pin. Your best bet is to kind of like wedge your finger in there and then just wedge it out just like that. They all also do have bicep swivels. They also all have double hinged elbows, which is really very nice. They have rotation here, get that out of the way, at the actual waist. And the hips move forward, they move back, they move in and out. The little skirt pieces on all of them are actually a softer material. So like this guy right here, you can see it's fairly tight to the body, but you can actually still kick the leg up. Also, because they're slid along the side, it flexes very nicely. So soft material plus that cut really helps with the articulation. It's not hindered much at all. So you have the in and out. They also rotate at the upper part of the thigh. They have two joints here at the knee for a nice range of motion. They rotate right above the boot. They move forward and back at the ankle. They move side to side. They also rotate all the way around, and they also have a little toe pivot, which is awesome, so you can get a little walking pose like that if you really wanted. Wrists also rotate, and they also do hinge forward and back very easily. And then to swap them out, you just kind of rotate that, get that out like that, and you got a little hole in there, and then you can just put the new wrist in there as well. So get that in there as well. So great level of detail, great level of articulation. These turned out spectacular, just absolutely spectacular. I'm so impressed just in general with how these look. Now, I don't know what they could actually do. I mean, these do translate very nicely in terms of using, those pre-existing figures and stuff to kind of create comic book representations of the bad guys. I don't know exactly how they, or if they could, do anything with the turtles. The turtles that came out for the San Diego Comic-Con set really look more or less like the cartoons. There isn't a lot that's done on them. The actual comic look was fairly unique, and those SDCC ones, just even if you repainted them, really wouldn't have that sort of look that the comic turtles had. With these bad guys though, it definitely works perfectly. My only real regret is that these are in color, and I absolutely love the black and white look. I've said it time and time again that the NECA turtles are, in my opinion, the definitive versions of the turtle characters. But for me, as a big comic book fan for these guys, I love the white look. That's how they were throughout the pages of the comics for a very long time. And in talking to Randy, it definitely seems that white versions of these guys could be in the mix at some point in time. But because their license is limited to only conventions, doing these guys in the black and white color scheme would take a very long time to do. And there are several other incarnations of the turtles and bad guys that they want to do first. Now, the unfortunate nature of things is, as I've talked about, these are New York Comic Con exclusives. They were available for a brief time on the NECA website, so if you didn't go to the convention, you actually could still buy them. And that's how I was able to get mine. And as far as I'm aware, they are unfortunately currently sold out. So the only way to really be able to get these right now would be through secondary markets such as eBay. Regular retail on these was only $100, which for 4 figures I don't think is all that bad. Considering on average NECA figures range from $20 to $25 anyhow, these figures along with all the accessories are a really nice box. At $100 I think is a pretty good value. And some people may be willing to pay more, especially if they've been waiting a very long time to get comic book representations of these characters. Either way, the figures themselves are great. I am super excited that NECA has once again gotten the license for Ninja Turtle figures, and I definitely don't think Randy is done giving us stuff. And I, for one, cannot wait to see what he has planned. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been optibotimus. Don't forget that if you like this video, to please like and share it. It goes a long way towards helping me out. Also, be sure to subscribe in case you haven't already subscribed. That way you get instant email notifications whenever I upload a new video, and you never miss a future review of mine. And as always, until next time, be excellent to each other.